Today is Monday, Parashat Noach. In the parasha of this week, we're told about the great flood, the Mabul. It was a flood that covered the whole world. Only Noach and his immediate family and the animals that were with him in the Teva, in that floating structure, only them were spared. It was an unbelievable kind of a punishment for a generation that had sinned. But what were the sins of that generation? The Pasuk says, "Vatishachet haaretz ifnei Elokim, vatimaleh haaretz chamas." The world had become perverted before Hashem, and the world was filled with robbery. These were the problems of that generation. And Rashi explains, "Vatishachet leshon erva ve'avodat Elohim." Vatishachet, this term denotes immorality and idolatry. So they had immorality and idolatry. And what is Vatimaleh Aretz Chamas? Gezel. What is Gezel? It's robbery. And the next pasuk, Ki ishchit kol basar et darko al haaretz. The next pasuk says, Vayar Elokim et haaretz ve'ineh nishchata. And Hashem saw the world and beheld that it was perverted. For all flesh had perverted its way upon the earth. And Rashi explains that things had gotten so bad in terms of immorality that even livestock and wild animals and birds cohabited with creatures that were not from their own species. So, aside from idolatry, these people were very immoral. The traditional family unit, husband and wife and children, loyalty to a spouse, in the natural way of things, was something that they did not abide by. And this is one of the grave sins that brought the Mabul. There was also idolatry. But there was also Gezel. There was Ezel, like one of the next psukim says, Ki male'ah haaretz chamas, because the whole land became filled with Hamas. And what is Hamas? Is Gezel, robbery. And Rashi explains that the sentence of the flood was sealed exclusively because of robbery. Even after they were immoral and worshipped idols, robbery, stealing one from the other, was something that sealed that judgment of the great flood. So any society, for it to survive, we understand that people have to get along with each other. Robbery, stealing from each other, cheating each other, caring only for oneself. There was an old French expression that says, "Après moi le déluge," which means, after me, let there be a flood. People cared only about themselves. They were very egoistical. And this type of sins and this type of behavior is something that we have to be concerned every day and age. Nowadays, many times you hear about certain ways that are totally unnatural in terms of raising a family. Morality, tzniut, and being traditional in these aspects is so important for the survival of not only the family unit, but also the society as a whole. When there is immorality, when there is fraud and robbery and cheating from one another, it breaks down the fabric of society. And then that generation of the Mabul, things got so bad that they deserved the type of punishment of the great flood. And Noach had to take all these animals into the Teva, and then he had to take care of each one of them and feed them every day, doing chesed, which is the exact opposite of caring just for me. He cared for a lot of creatures. And even the word teva itself in Hebrew, yes, it means that floating structure that Noah was in. But teva in Hebrew means also a word. Like you said, pasuk has 5 words, it has 5 tevot. Each word is called a teva. But if we look at a teva, at a word, it's composed of letters. Every letter on its own, if you have just one letter, the letter doesn't have meaning to express a word, to express an idea. It's just a letter. Of course, the Hebrew letter, each one has its own spiritual power and energy, but when they come together, after you have more than one letter, 2 letters, 3 letters, 4 letters together, they form a word that has then meaning. And each letter sort of like has a relationship with the other letters to create together something that is meaningful. That teva, that word, has a message. The same way that Noach was in the teva, to tell us that each person living just for himself, on his own, just like a letter on its own, doesn't have meaning unless he joined with other letters to create a meaning. And that's also that way in society. Each of us have talents or have abilities, but each of us on our own don't have nowhere as much meaning as when we join with others to create a community, to create a society, to create a family, and we each contribute to each other to form what then has more meaning. Just like a teva word formed from letters gains an incredible, more bigger dimension than just each letter on its own. And the story in the Torah of the Mabul is not just as a historical record of what happened then. It's very much to teach us also what are the pitfalls in a society in terms of those aspects that were so bad for the fabric of a society that brought about the Mabul. And for every day and age, we have to be careful with these things, to be careful with not chas v'shalom stealing or taking what is not ours, to be very careful with the property of others, to be very careful with the morality, with the traditional family unit. And of course, idolatry was something that is so bad. We always have to keep our faith in Hashem, and may we merit to serve Him. Hashem always besimcha, always with mitzvot, and always according to the words of the Torah. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.